Bannock.
Present.
Mrs. Castle.
Present.
Mr. Strang.
Here.
Mr. Pena.
Here.
Mrs. Brown.
Here. I would like to call to order this meeting of the Troy Board of Education. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Gardner Dickinson. On behalf of the Wynantskill Board of Education and Administration, we thank you for being here tonight at the joint Troy and Wynantskill Board of Education meeting. Tonight represents an important moment in our work together, the completion of the reorganization feasibility study after a full year of compiling data, collecting feedback from stakeholders, and exploring what sometimes felt like endless possibilities for the future. I want to begin by sincerely thanking the Troy Board of Education members and the Troy administration team, their assistants, for welcoming us into your district throughout this entire process. From the very start, you have shown openness, professionalism, and a true spirit of partnership that we explored as we explored this prospect of annexation. You have truly been a partner, not only through this process, but more than 100 years. Thank you. A special thanks to Superintendent John Carmelo. John, your partnership and leadership have been invaluable as we navigated this uncharted territory together. Your steady guidance and willingness to collaborate every step of the way have meant so much. Thank you for putting up with all my tears and for learning when I need a hug instead of a fist bump. To the entire Troy community, administrators, teachers, staff, and coaches, thank you for embracing our students and providing them with such meaningful extracurricular opportunities this year. Whether through sports, drama, ski club, Odyssey of the Mind, music groups, and so much more, our students have had experiences that they are generally enjoying, and those opportunities have made a lasting impact. We can't thank you enough. Thank you as well to David Elliott and Maureen Durio, who are here from New York State Education. Thank you for your wisdom and guidance as we ventured through this uncharted territory regarding the potential merger between a union-free and enlarged city school district. We truly appreciate the effort you put into helping us find the answers when oftentimes there didn't seem to be any, so thank you for that. I'd also like to thank Dr. Gladys Cruz and her team from Questar 3 BOCES for their continued support. They've helped us navigate through this process to ensure that it remained clear and transparent. Their support in creating and maintaining our feasibility study website has been incredibly beneficial, so I thank them for that. And now to my GD family, to the Wynantskill Board of Education and our tiny but fierce administration team. This has been an incredibly difficult and emotional process, but your willingness to push forward because you believed it was what's best for our students is something to be truly proud of. Your unwavering dedication to Wynantskill and doing what's right for children deserves recognition. Thank you to our GD teachers, staff, and community members for your patience, your support, as we approach this process with your open minds and open hearts. Even in uncertainty, you've remained committed to putting kids first. Thank you. This process has been emotional for many of us, and we are grateful for everyone who's offered support, asked questions, answered questions, checked in, and walked beside us every step of the way. As we move forward, I think it's important to remember this has never been about buildings, budgets, or boundaries. It's always been about children, real children. There's my favorite right there. children's futures the responsibility to give every opportunity we can. Thank you for being here tonight and your continued partnership and commitment to our students. In a minute, we're going to turn it over to Bob Bridenstine and Brian Schmidt. Bob and Brian, thank you both for so much of the work you've done on the optimization study, and now finishing through the feasibility study, which is now almost a year plus later. Your time, thoughtfulness, and dedication that you've invested have been extraordinary, and we're grateful that you've constantly ensured that our students remain the center of every one of our decisions and your decisions, so thank you. For me personally, that meant answering my questions all hours of the night, 7 days a week, and treating me to a platter of tater tots when I'm happy or sad. I so appreciate you being there for me and our entire GD community. You've done exceptional and thoughtful work. Thank you.
Great job, Mary. I would like to reiterate all those thank yous. Everybody did such great work over the last, we've been involved for the last 6 months or so, but I know it was longer than that. The interactions and conversations I've had with everybody, from the Gardner Dickinson board members to Mary and her team, to the staff, the teachers and staff, the community members, have all been insightful, all been really great, all been leading up to this moment. We've taken the input, we've taken all the suggestions, we've navigated through them with Bob and Brian's help, and come up with, you'll hear tonight the findings of the report. The report, if you haven't seen it, is 150 plus pages of real comprehensive data and findings and recommendations, and they did great work. We've already said it, but thank you to David and Maureen. SED has been with us every step of the way. Gladys Cruz and her team at Questar, and all the people that Mary already mentioned. One person she didn't mention is herself, and so I just want to thank her for taking this on. And I said before at one of our meetings, I think it was in this room, Mary and this Board of Ed, this is not an easy thing to take on. It's been very emotional for people. It's been very trying for her and for the team here. But they're doing what's right for the students. They're doing what's right for the school. They're doing what's right for this community. And having the courage to do that, she should be commended, and the Board of Ed here should be commended. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Bob and Brian from the Schmidt Leadership Group.
Thank you. As we begin this work, I think, as Cubby says, it's always good to start with the end in mind. And when we were here literally 6 months to the day on Friday of this week, it's been 6 months since we've undertaken the annexation feasibility study. But as Mary had mentioned before that, for the entire previous school year, we had the pleasure of working with the small and mighty Gardner Dickinson family to help understand its emerging and critical needs. Over the last 6 months, we transitioned from the small and mighty Gardner Dickinson family to the large and welcoming and opening family of Troy. We said, I believe, on day one that for this type of work to occur, there has to be committed, willing partners. And for that, Brian and I would like to acknowledge both sets of boards of education, both superintendents, your leadership teams, your faculty and staff, the willing partners at the State Education Department and Questar BOCES, the family members, the students, the faculty, the paraprofessional, and the civil service staff. This work was made possible because everyone came to the seat at the table to have this conversation. So it's our distinct pleasure to present to you this evening the annexation study. It is located on the Questar site and online. It is in excess of 160 pages of observations, analysis, commentary that can be backed up by statistical analysis, by hard current data, and realistic projections for the future. This project was submitted to the State Education Department on January 15th. As we had said previously, it went through several iterations of revisions to make sure that it's both technically sound, accurate, and in alignment with state ed rules and regulation.
On February 2nd, the report received its final approval from the State Education Department, and that's what we present to you this evening. The purpose of the study, quite simply, was a comprehensive analytical analysis of this body of work to talk about enrollment, instruction, staffing, facilities, transportation, finances, the historical context of both districts, and we use data-driven analysis with stakeholder input. We put those two together, and everything that we found in this study, we believe confidently can be backed up with current and historical data to tell a very compelling story about two incredible school districts. As we look for alignment with this study, we wanted to make sure that every voice had a role in this conversation. There's an old political statement that says, everything has been said by everyone who could say it, but has not yet been said by everyone. We wanted to make sure that there was no stone unturned to get information, the good, the bad, and the ugly, about the reality that are facing so many school districts, not just in this region, but all across New York State. As we said, we looked at everything that comprises the school district, from enrollment and instruction, facilities and staffing, and so forth. As we look at this, we had 6 large community forums that varied in size of approximately 60 to 90 individuals, with the exception of the snow day cancellation, which had over 250 participants. And one of the key elements of this work was stakeholder engagement. There were 2,200 separate engagements up to our last meeting. There have been more, but we had to stop counting at some point in time, okay? So 2,200 unique user engagements that gave us great, meaningful input, and the website for Questar is there. Everything that is in this document is on the Questar website. Everything in the document, when you go to look at it, there are hyperlinks in the document, chapter, section, and page citations. So if you're looking at a 160-page document and say, where is this? We've taken you in the template, thanks to State Ed, thanks to our editing team, to make sure that stakeholders can find the exact citation when they have that question. We believe that's important because the quality of the analysis is tied directly to the data and the information that was shared with the teams. Several of the key factors included finances, facilities, instruction, and extracurricular programs, as well as staffing and student transportation. At any given moment in time, any one of those listings is the #1 priority, but they are all #1 in some way, shape, or form. The overriding premise of all of this work, which is not on the list, which is ground zero, the foundation, is students. Everything that we tried to do was tied to how do finances impact students? How do finances impact the staff that are trying to meaningfully create programs for students? And the same with facilities, the quality, the types, and so on. These were the key bedrock principles that we began to examine. And when we looked at the financial impact of annexation, we know several things. We know that it is a tale of 2 districts, David and Goliath, okay? Troy is large, has an infrastructure. Troy is a family system. Wynantskill is the same. It just has a different geography and a different background. Both create meaningful opportunities of excellence and engagement for students. They both have exemplary staff and stakeholders that create this environment where kids learn with great success, but the finances are a tale very different for the 2 districts. We can see the tax levy difference. A small fluctuation from New York State can be absorbed by Troy because they have that financial infrastructure and ability to manipulate and move things around. A tiny change in Wynantskill is the equivalent of a tsunami in a Dixie cup. It is substantially impactful to students, staff, programs, and facilities. And when we looked at the data, it presented a very stark, clear picture that by 2030, verified by multiple data sources, confirmed after deep analysis of finances, By 2030, Wynantskill will be facing a $2 million deficit, which will have a drastic, catastrophic impact on programs. It is a matter of survivability that these two districts have conversations about partnering. Through annexation, if this occurs, we've talked before, Troy is a small city school district. Wynantskill is a union-free school district. There are different regulations and rules governing a partnership between a small city and a union-free school district. That's why the term annexation is used, but it's really a partnership of two systems. With successful annexation, there is a substantial, dramatic impact of reorganizational aid over 14 years. This is the projection. If this occurs and is supported throughout the remaining part of this process, that is the approximate timetable for the distribution of funds. All funds are predicated on actual student enrollment, but based on current numbers today and the current formula in place today, this is the number that has been expressed and what the districts can anticipate. The last part is project capital aid improvements. Generally speaking, 98% of approved projects that conform with maximum cost allowance are approved and would be reimbursed to the district if they're voted on within the 10-year window of the reorganization. That allows substantial improvements to this existing building, as well as other facilities and destinations in the reorganized district to lessen the burden on taxpayers in the community. As we looked at some of the structural changes for a reorganization, we know that Wynantskill has a significant high tuition cost budget for the high school students. This fund, this obligation would be reduced over time. One combined budget, one levy, one governance structure does provide some tax relief and some relief to the school districts and the residents. Aid streams consolidate under Troy's far more advantageous methodology and numbers. Basically, Troy's aid level is 90.2% building aid, transportation aid is 90%, and immediately upon authorization, the existing debt load for Wynantskill will be recalculated, saving a significant amount of money immediately. As we look forward to some of the proposed budgetary impacts, again, these are still local decisions that the district will need to make, but these are firm commitments that the partners have said, not just publicly, but they have taken demonstrative action to put this into print. Initially, year one, 27-28, would be a first year 5% reorganization for all taxable properties in the new district. Beyond that, that will help stabilize the tax levy. It will lower the combined rate for all residents. It will provide immediate noticeable benefit and savings to the community and provide a stable financial foundation for this part of the reorganized district. Troy has enjoyed that. It's detailed in significant ways in the financial chapters as well as the historical chapters. Troy has enjoyed that for at least a decade and is projected to continue to have that great financial stability, which positively impacts student programming and the staff that provides those programs to students, whether it's instruction, health services, transportation, food service. If it's providing service to students, we know from the data and the sets of data that Troy has a significant foundation in which they can continue to do that for the very foreseeable future. As we noted in the documents as well, Wynantskill enjoys far less stability because of the financial impacts. In a re-annexed, reorganized district, as I said, the first year would be a 5% tax levy reduction, and then for 4 subsequent years at a minimum, the district has committed to a 0% tax increase. That is substantial, and part of that ability is the good governance structure of the Troy system, its Troy community, as well as the reorganization operating aid of $241 million, increased capital service funding, as well as recalculating the existing Wynantskill debt. This also allows in the budget plan to maintain and preserve existing pre-annexation Wynantskill staffing levels, funding for additional supports and programs and staff. We've talked extensively in public hearings about some of the haves that Troy enjoys and some of the have-nots that Wynantskill is not able to afford, even though they would like to, such as additional supports in classrooms, co-teaching models, additional remedial and gifted and talented type programs, as well as sports and athletics. This does, in this plan, preserve a transition period that is reasonable, sustainable, and practicable for existing Wynantskill students as they transition to high school. And it also establishes, through the reorganization aid, a reserve account to cover that cost without coming back to the taxpayers for additional taxation purposes. The multi-year tax stabilization plan will be rolled out over a 15-year period using the reorganization aid and the proven, true, well-tested financial approach that Troy has undertaken. It also includes the ability to use the operating aid to offset regular cost of living or expenditures that occur due to growth. It maintains a robust building reserve funds to mitigate any potential tax impacts, and it avoids sudden spikes of either the federal government or New York State or inflation changing the rules midstream. Some of the conclusions that we had made, and they're detailed in the executive summary portion, many pages of findings and recommendations and citations where you can find that work cited in the full document. One of the main conclusions that we had is that the engagement between the Troy system and the Wynantskill system is necessary because because Wynantskill faces, as I've said before, near extinction level funding decreases to provide instructional solvency and fiscal solvency in the district. This is looming in the immediate horizon if action is not taken, and we don't say that lightly. Some of the things that we heard, some of the things that we saw, and things that we could verify is that the stakeholders have universally said that they desire to keep this Gardner-Dickinson campus, faculty and staff intact. The Gardner-Dickinson building will require significant financial investment in the campus and the plant that is Gardner-Dickinson. The reorganization incentive aid, the robust, dynamic capital project ability at 98% to maximize those expenditures can go a very long way in a building, and in the building condition surveys which are cited, Gardner-Dickinson needs an immediate infusion of at least $5 million to get this building to a point where folks are more comfortable. We want the environment. The students were very clear. They want a building that's welcoming, inviting, modern. And to quote some of the students, I think one of them may be here, they don't want their school to be drab, dull, and not exciting. It's hard to argue with students when they're compelling. And as I've said previously, the 7th and 8th graders use salty language, but that doesn't make it wrong. Some of the other fiscal stressors include staffing, teacher retirement, employee retirement systems, operations, transportation. Just a quick commentary about transportation. The systems have a very different approach to transportation. As I said in the earlier slide, all staff remain, and there will be a period of transition as those systems align and come into cohesion over the next course of several years. But it's important to note, in some systems, they would use that as an opportunity to slash and burn. That is not the case in this system. Everyone remains whole because family, and the two systems are coming together as a family, is an important element of a successful transition to a reorganized district. All of those contractual benefits, all of those things, extensive meetings with staff and stakeholders about how does this work collaboratively and together, is one of the most dynamic parts of this conversation that we've experienced in our mutual careers, but also working with other systems that are struggling with some of this. I would venture to say, in my opinion, as someone who's been in education since the 1980s, this process is an exemplar model for other systems to follow. Not because of the work that Brian or I did, but because of the dynamic partnership that these two communities have engaged in. Mary is right, there were some hard conversations. There were some difficult conversations, but they were had with students at the center of attention. Some of the other things that we talked about, we know Gardner-Dickinson, that choice is an absolute necessity. And to Troy's credit, they listened, they heard, and they've come up with a feasible, sustainable plan for the students that are currently impacted. And they've put their actions and words into very clear pathways forward for the students that will be impacted by this who are currently in school. This allows us to preserve the instructional success of both programs and leverage what is absolutely fantastic in both systems to make the other system grow and be better. That is an incredible partnership that is worth its weight in gold. The benefits of annexation, in addition to keeping the Gardner-Dickinson open as a pre-K building, as a neighborhood school for this neighborhood, it improves the campus with virtually no or minimal expenditure of existing tax revenues and taxpayer payments to fund these changes. It reduces the tax burden, it stabilizes future districts, it expands opportunities for both systems, it maintains and expands co-curricular activities, and as I said, which can't be said enough, it maintains the existing Wynantskill stakeholders and employees. Now, every coin has another side. Here are the consequences that we found if this does not occur. An immediate Wynantskill tax increase of 6.4% annually, not just once, 26, 27, 27, 28, 28, 29, 29, 30, and perhaps beyond, of a 6.4% annual tax increase. When you start compounding that, that is a lot of money out of taxpayers' pockets at a time when residents in every community can ill afford that. Staff reductions beginning this summer. Reductions of co-curriculars, clubs, and activities and athletics. And I can say from the optimization study and our work with the existing current students and stakeholders, there aren't many things left. They would virtually go away, if not in its entirety. There just simply would not be enough to be instructionally solvent and co-curricular solvent. And the district would have to make that very difficult choice. School choice options, which are the lifeblood of this community for its entire history, would be drastically reduced. And that could impact existing students within those programs. It would increase pre-K-8 class sizes with significant levels. It would reduce the academic supports to things that are only mandated. And there would be no foreseeable improvements to this capital improvements to this campus. Our recommendation is simple. After 6 months of exhaustive work and incredible conversations with stakeholders, we are recommending that the district proceed with annexation and follow the steps outlined by the State Education Department to engage its community of learners in the Wynantskill community and move this forward for consideration for an annexation vote at your earliest possible convenience. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. We're moving on to our public comment part of the agenda. Oh, Mr. Barber, nobody signed up for public jointly to include the engagement of appropriate consultants, the collection and analysis of relevant data, and collaboration with stakeholders from both districts. Whereas, following an RFP process facilitated by Questar 3 BOCES, the Schmidt Leadership Group was selected to conduct the feasibility study. Whereas, following a comprehensive review that included more than 2,200 community and stakeholder engagements, the Schmidt Leadership Group completed its feasibility study, which contained a preliminary recommendation to proceed with a public vote for annexation pending review and approval by the New York State Education Department. Whereas NYSED has notified both districts that it has approved the feasibility study, and whereas the feasibility study report has been made available to both boards and to their respective communities for review, now therefore be it resolved that both boards have reviewed the feasibility study report and agree with and hereby accept the findings and recommendations set forth therein. Be it further resolved that both boards direct their respective superintendents to take the steps necessary to achieve consolidation between Troy and Wynantskill, including but not limited to obtaining the approval of the qualified voters of Wynantskill at a special meeting to be hereafter authorized by the Wynantskill Board of Education. Our second part 4.2 is the reorganization vote proposition, March 31st, 2026. Whereas the Board of Education of the Wynantskill Union Free School District is serious of consolidating with the enlarged City School District of Troy, and the Troy Board of Education is serious of consolidating with Wynantskill. Whereas Wynantskill and Troy have each undertaken the preliminary steps necessary to proceed with the formal consolidation process, including but not limited to obtaining sufficient evidence of community support through the utilization of petitions, jointly undertaking a comprehensive feasibility study to determine how reorganization is to be implemented, and obtaining approval of the feasibility study by the New York State Education Department. Now, therefore, be it resolved that a special meeting of the qualified voters of the Wynantskill Union Free School District be, and the same is hereby called to be held on Tuesday, March 31st, 2026, from 12 p.m. until 9 p.m. for the purpose of voting on the following proposition. The proposition: shall the Wynantskill Union Free School District be annexed to and become part of the enlarged City School District of Troy, and shall the Wynantskill Union Free School District be dissolved, and all of the territory of such district be annexed to and become a part of the enlarged City School District of Troy, which shall be the surviving school district pursuant to the New York State Education Law, and shall all the property rights of the Wynantskill Union Free School District be transferred to and assumed by the enlarged City School District of Troy pursuant to the New York State Education Law. Mr. Barber.
Motion? Second. Mrs. Urbanic?
Yes.
Mrs. Castle?
Yes.
Mr. Strang?
Yes.
Mr. Femia?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Motion on the floor to adjourn the Troy Board of Education meeting. All those in favor? Opposed?
Motion on the floor to adjourn the Wynantskill Board of Education meeting. Was that Jenny? And Kathy second? All those in favor?